If when hearing someone say, "Black Lives Matter," you feel compelled to answer with, "Well, all lives matter," here is what you're missing. Imagine you are at a large dinner party and everyone around you has a plate full of food, except you. And it occurs to you that you are not getting any food anytime soon. You say, "Hey, I want my fair share." Someone next to you says, smiling, "Of course, everybody should have their fair share." The person next to you drones on and on about how everybody should have their fair share. All the while you sit there with an empty plate. Almost everyone who believes they are morally obligated to remind this country that Black Lives Matter already believes that all lives matter. It is precisely because of the belief that all lives matter, combined with the direct observation that right now, in real circumstances, Black lives are being treated as if they do not matter. It is in this that the need to remind the country that Black lives do matter arises. When you bring up the general principle, all lives matter, it is not just entirely irrelevant, because it's almost a certainty that the person you are talking to believes this as much as you do. Talking about all lives matter is an act of avoiding real talk. Black Lives Matter is a response to direct observations about real circumstances. If you respond to the reminder that Black Lives Matter by bringing up the general principle, all lives matter, all you have done is change the topic. You are not listening. You are turning your face away from the issue being discussed. Avoiding real talk is the single most dysfunctional characteristic of almost all of the talk about political and social issues in the United States. This damaged mode of communication is not unique to racial issues. It affects everything. The question is, just how dysfunctional is it? The dominant method of avoiding real talk is to change the topic. The most widely used method to change the topic is to use ad hominem argument, which attacks people instead of focusing on ideas. Watch this example of ad hominem argument, where Homer Simpson attacks his political opponent personally during a debate. Although this cartoon is structured for comic effect, real politicians, pundits, the news media, and the American people employ extraordinarily dysfunctional ad hominem talk every day.
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Well, then you better turn up your hearing aid, Pops.
Pops? I'm only 2 years older than you.
Do we want old man Patterson here with his finger on the button?
What button? What the hell are you talking about?
What button? Where am I? Who took my false teeth?
Talking about people instead of keeping the focus on the issues is an obvious violation of our common sense. This is because we do not tolerate it in real life. Think of it this way. The dominant talk in U.S. politics focuses on the human character traits and defects of individuals and groups, under the delusion that this constitutes a discussion about politics. But nobody would ever talk about the human character of physicists. Do they steal? Who is cheating on their spouse? And suffer from the delusion that they just talked about the science of physics. Nobody would ever talk about the ethics of carpenters. Will they steal? Who is the biggest pervert? And suffer from the delusion that they just talked about how to make things out of wood. We never do this in daily life because everyone knows this is stupendously wrong. In every art, in every trade, and in every science that we use in daily life, we know that human character is a separate topic. We would never accept the irresponsible, ad hominem personal attacks that we find in politics if it came from our auto mechanic or our doctors, and then proceed to think that such talk was a legitimate discussion about auto mechanics and medical science. Why do we tolerate ad hominem personal attack talk as normal in politics? This is a violation of common sense. A second popular method to change the topic, which works perfectly with ad hominem argument, is what I call whataboutism. In whataboutism, the topic is changed, and the person avoids real talk by saying, "What about such and such?" This has the effect of shutting the original conversation down. Responding to Black Lives Matter with the retort that all lives matter is a form of whataboutism. When you bring it up, you're really saying, hold that thought because we're not going to talk about it. Instead of talking about issues of racial injustice inherent in this statement, let's talk about the general principle, all lives matter, instead. Whataboutism is the avoidance of real talk by bouncing to a different issue and shutting the original conversation down. The retort that all lives matter is avoiding real talk through whataboutism. Refusing to stay on topic is how we talk politics in the U.S. When focusing on differences in useful ways and staying on topic is not available to the general habits of the talk of the American people, this means that it is also not available to our talk on racial injustice. In order to solve the problems of racial injustice in the United States, in order to improve race relations generally, it is absolutely necessary to stop the dysfunctional and nation-killing habit of avoiding real talk. The solution is to learn how to have a real talk with one another about political and social issues, about life itself. To do this, we must discuss the structures of problems, not the structures of personalities. We must focus on the details of national solutions and not focus on the details of individual, idiosyncratic failures. We must attack ideas with the full measure of rational force, not attack people with the full measure of our own personal disrespect. Most importantly, we must discuss every detail of our differences, not use our differences as an excuse to stop talking with one another. Talking about differences is very important. Perceiving, contemplating, and talking about differences are the fundamental requirements for the existence of all human meaning and knowledge. The most important truth we need to learn is that it is an honor and a privilege to talk to another citizen who actually has a different point of view, because all existing knowledge and all existing understanding throughout the entire history of humanity has been brought into existence through the thoughtful contemplation and discussion of differences. It may not always be pleasant or easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. The most important way to improve race relations in the United States is to stop our habits of avoiding real talk and learn how to speak openly and rationally with one another. Think on these things.